It's now time to paint our character as we have baked every map. So I will rename the Baker shader with a more relevant one, Dragon Knight Painting, for example. Then I will reload my reference and open a second UV image editor, create a map, base color map for my character, which will be an 8K map. I will give it a base color which is close to the base color of the skin on the reference. At least I will try to. And I will save this map accordingly. I will set my workspace opening the node editor, as we'll be relying on cycles to paint our map. And I will load the AO and the curvature map in two other image texture slots. The little tip is to switch to material mode in the 3D view so that cycles will display us the mixture of the different texture we are using, and this will allow us to paint different map and see the result directly in the 3D viewport without further ado. So I can now mix the AO with the base color using the multiply option and play with the factor. So at the beginning we'll set it to a very high value, but we will lower it on our final stage because the ambient occlusion will be calculated into the rendering. But for the time being, it helps us seeing our character. And I will add another mix RGB set to overlay to add my curvature map. To make easier identification, I will select my image texture node and set a color to it in the end panel of the node editor. Then to get decent performances, I will edit the preview subdivision of the multi-res to 1 so that the painting will be smooth and react correctly. I will then switch to texture painting mode in the 3D viewport, set the bleeding factor to 14 so that whenever I will paint, Blender will extrapolate pixels on the outside of the UV island, avoiding seams. Then I will make sure I've selected the Dragon Knight base color and select the fill brush. Then I will create a new palette which will allow me to store the different color I'll be using. So I will name it accordingly and use a color that is closer to the reference in terms of saturation. As soon as I have set my color, I will press the plus button so that it will be stored into the palette. With the fill brush set to a strength of 1, I can click my model to fill it with previously selected color. Blender can get a bit laggy when using the fill brush on such an high resolution texture, so don't get worried if it freezes, just wait it to come back. In the tool option, I can switch on symmetry on the x-axis so that we can paint both sides at the same time. And with a lighter color that I have stored into my palette, I will start painting the face. I will start with a lighter color that I have stored, and I will start painting the nose, eyebrows and cheekbone in a slightly lighter color. Then I will use a bluish color that I will also store into my palette, and I will paint the beard area and any hairy area. So I'm just setting the cold and warm tones. So I will start with this bluish color on this area around the mouth and around the eyes, I believe. And then I will create a new color that will be way more warm to paint the nose a bit, the cheek, and the inside of the ears. I will paint the horns and the scalp area using a darker color, so sometimes I'm switching to texture and material mode. I will define the base of the scalp and horns, and then I will go into side view, and into the option I will uncheck occlude, curl, and normals. This way I will be able to paint through my mesh, which is very handy. I don't have to turn around. So I just need to push the strength way up, paint in one stroke, and then when I will rotate around my character, everything should be painted this way. Then I will re-enable those options to be able to finish it. So I will finish to set my base color, make some adjustment, and then I will work on some color variation as if I were using an airbrush to do so. So I will be using the standard texture draw brush and use a pretty wide brush size so that I can have very smooth transition between my base color and those color variation, and I will do so on the wall mesh. We will get the stylized effect thanks to the curvature texture we have baked before, and the stylize is mostly sourced from our sculpted mesh. Now I will just use 2 or 3 colors to add some highlights and some warmer tone onto the whole body. So I will highlight the areas that are mostly pointing outward and add some warmness following the reference I have. We have something to verify as we are working on a subdivision level of only 1. So I will switch it to 2 on my multi-resolution modifier. And we have those seams appearing. And this is because the UV is subdivided by the multi-resolution modifier. So I will switch to the smear brush and I will gently brush those areas to get rid of those difference of color. Now I would like to work on the end without having the problem of the occlusion of the body, so I will switch to edit mode and I will isolate both ends. To do it rapidly, I will select a ring around the wrist, hide them, and then pressing the L key, I will be able to select the ends. I can then press Shift H to hide everything but the selection. Go back into texture painting mode and enable the face limitation option. Unfortunately, Blender doesn't allow to display this option correctly while in material mode, so I will have to switch to texture mode or solid view mode. I'm roughly painting the nails using the same color as for the horns, and then I will make everything blending correctly by reusing the standard brush and smear brush and the base color of the skin. Once you're happy with your base color, don't forget to save the picture by pressing Alt-S.